from Loop by Loop Studio. I'm sorry I'm a little bit backlit today because I'm sitting in front of my sunny studio window and it's just too great a spot to hook to give up. So I wanted to pop on today. It's been a long time since I've done a video. Things have been so busy. I have been doing videos with my colleague and friend Liz Bessel, Haley and Liz at the Expressive Stitch Collective. You can find us on YouTube. And we've been making a lot of art and different types of videos. But today I want to do like a very rug hooking specific video. I recently went to a hook-in this past weekend and people were really interested in some of the more alternative materials that I've been using. So not only do I incorporate wool strips and wool yarn into my hooked rugs, but I've also started using things like nylon and sari and a t-shirt yarn and all sorts of different things. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit today and how they can add so much texture to your hooked rug. So I figured let's pop on, let's make a little video, let's show you what I'm working on, and yeah, maybe you can see if you would like to try some of these fibers in your own piece. Okay, welcome to my very messy rug hooking Chetty Camp table here. I have all sorts of things here that I want to show you, and these are different fibers that I've been adding into my hooked rugs, and I'm going to add some into my abstract landscape that I'm doing over here. So the first thing I want to show you is a newer type of product from Loop by Loop Studio, and it's wool yarn mixed with bamboo yarn, and it's this thin, thick, beautifully colored yarn that adds a lot of texture into your surface. And this is one that I used. It's more of a purpley color that I used in my spring foliage rug that I'll put up on the screen so you can see how it adds again such a different texture than the rest of the surface. And then these wonderful thin yarns, I tend to cut them apart and use this in double, triple, or quadruple and it really gives quite a shimmer to your surface. So that's the first thing I want to show you. I have all different skeins. These are $15 a skein, which is really a great value for a whole 4-ounce thing of wool and bamboo. It goes a long way. The second thing I wanted to show you is these nylon pieces that I've been using as well. I just had one. Here's one. All of these nylon pieces come in these mix packs and they've been over dyed. So they come in rainbow colors and then I throw them in different dye pots to kind of knock down that color a little bit and unify it, so that the colors are not as, brightly crayon box intense. And these are 2-ounce packages of nylon pieces. The nice thing about them is that you can cut them apart and they're nice and stretchy, they're soft, you can pull them up to your surface, and they just add like a really nice loop. It kind of, these piece of nylon kind of curls together, and they're really lovely to use. The third thing I wanted to show you was I also have Stash Builder yarn packs, and these are all wool yarns and sari pieces. It's not that these are different than what we normally use, it's just that they're a great way to stash build different textures to use in your projects. And these I sell for $12 for a 2-ounce bundle. It's pretty big, you get a lot of different stuff in there. So again, when you're talking about stash building textures, these are really great way to do it because you get a lot for a little bit of money. And then finally, I have 4-ounce packs of t-shirt yarn. And this is double what you get in here for only $8. So I think it's important to talk about, right now, you might want to be saving some money. I mean, you might want to save money all the time. But using alternative fibers is also a really great way to experiment, get more texture. Of course, we love that, but maybe even knock down the price tag a little bit because you get a lot for a little money, and really, really good way to kind of be economical. So let me get myself set up here and I'll show you how each one of these works in your hooked rug. So I ended my last little segment mentioning about how using some of these materials can help save a buck here and there, and that's one of the reasons why I've been so interested in diversifying the materials that I make hook rugs out of. You know, I'm wondering if perhaps in an economy where people are struggling, which has happened multiple times in my lifetime, if maybe, you know, offering rug hooking at a more reasonable rate might be something that interests people, because it does interest me, and it's not something I talk about a lot. I just kind of feel like it's my responsibility as a rug hooking artist to have all sorts of different offerings for people. You know, I still prefer hooking on linen over burlap. I still, you know, have a Chetty Camp frame, although I'm not using it right now. But to show people that you don't have to break the bank if you want to get into this hobby, I think is you know, it's kind of an important thing to share, because I don't want prices of things to gatekeep people out of this craft. So here is a project that I've been working on, and I think, as I said, I went to a hook-in this past weekend in Bedford, Massachusetts. Thank you for having me. And I was working on this abstract landscape. You can see it's squished in my hoop, but there's some trees and a sky and a ground. And I'm just making up as I go. But really the best thing about this piece, in my opinion, because it's not super colorful, is the textures and the variety of textures, and making a really interesting surface pattern for people to enjoy. So it's super fun to hook, because you're kind of playing with all these different things from my bag. So I decided I wanted to incorporate some of the things we were just talking about. We were talking about t-shirt and nylon and different kinds of sari silks and things. I have a little bit of silk and chiffon in here, but really this is a piece that I started quite a while ago, so I didn't have those other materials at my fingertips. So let me grab a couple things to show. So here's that piece of nylon that I was playing with just a few minutes ago. It was a ring. I cut it up, and now it's about I would say six inch long piece. Has a nice stretch to it. And I'm going to show you just how I hook with that. It's really, really easy, because you hook it just like you'd hook anything else. This goes underneath, hook stays on top. And I'm going to go in, because I'm adding some of this deep rusty red color in my field. I'm just going to go in here and start pulling it up. It's really nice and soft and easy to get these loops up. But you can see the texture is going to come up, and it's going to look slightly different than the other red that I have in there, just because it's different in color, but also because the loop itself, it isn't plied, but it's nice and has a nice fold to it. And you get, you know, probably a couple inches of hooking out of one piece. Here's another one, because as, you know, a rug hooker, I know that I don't just want to put it in one spot. I want to put it all around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of connect it to this other red. And now this smaller spot of rusty red is going to become a bigger red shape. And now I'm just going to pull the other end up, trim with my scissors, and you can see it's adding a little bit of dimension to that other red and making that red shape look like a grouping of flowers or something along those lines. The other thing that I wanted to do is I mentioned that this rug is very simple in color theme. So I wanted to play with some adding in a brighter color. So I showed you the package of t-shirt yarns that I've been putting together, the mix packs for $8. I also sell these t-shirt yarns in pieces as well. I sell them in a certain amount of ounces. You can just buy a color. So you don't have to, if you are looking for a larger piece, I can make that for you. And I have them all listed on my website, loopbyloopstudio.com. But this is how it comes. And I can just pull a piece off, since this is how I have it at the studio, in a roll. And this is the t-shirt yarn. This one in particular is very stretchy. All the t-shirt yarns that I have in the studio here are recycled from various types of materials. So this one happens to be sort of a stretchy. When it's rolled up and pulled, it's a little bit thin. It's close to an 8 size wool strip. And you can pull this up, pull loops like this as is, or you can cut up the middle. Since this one's nice and stretchy, I'm probably just going to pull the loops as is. Some of the other colors I have Like I know for sure, especially this sort of like fleshy one, it does not have the same kind of stretch. So if I'm going to use this, I'm just going to unravel a bit and cut up the yarn to thin it out a little bit. And I have hooked pieces of this yarn as is, and full disclosure, it does hurt my hand after a little while because it's not as stretchy and it's not as soft. It's just a little bit harder to get these loops up. But I'm just gonna cut up them. You know, this is about the same size as my my nylon piece. So I have 2 pieces here that are about 7 inches, and I can use these as well. And I have all different different patterns and different kind of stretchiness. Every single one of these, and I have I think over 30 of them, has a different pattern, a different weight to it. So you really end up getting a lot of options when you get one of those mix packs. And if you have any questions about sort of the weight of a particular t-shirt yarn, you can let me know. So I'll show you this. See how it's thick. I can get it up no problem because again, it does this particular golden yellow is pretty soft, but I have to go in, I have to really widen that hole and then pull it up. And it covers a lot of area because it's really, really thick. Oh, I like how it's adding this kind of goldenrod color in there. And I'm going to just do one more. I'm going to trim this loop, pull it out from the bottom so I don't have to fight with it. And I'll leave that just like that. Let me show you the one that I cut in half. This actually might be a nice in the sky because it's almost like, it's not white. It's like a very light pink. And it kind of reminds me of that sari that's right here. So you can see I've cut it in half, so it's a lot easier to pull up. And there it is. It gives you about the same amount of coverage as the nylon. The last thing I wanted to show you, so I have 2 different colors of that universal bamboo yarn here. I want to show you how I use that. So I tend to cut my skeins in half and then I put them together and knot them at the middle, and then I can just pull right from the knot a piece of that yarn out. So I mentioned before that this is a thin, thick yarn. The white part is bamboo and it has a little bit of sheen to it, and then it's mixed with almost like a single ply wool. And this one's mostly blue and white. So I tend to use these separately in that I will, where are my scissors? I'll cut this thick part off and use the thin bamboo and the thick wool in different areas. Sometimes I do that. I don't always. Sometimes I just hook the whole thing. But the nice shiny bamboo part, you'll see as I pull it up and move my hand. But I'm hooking them double ply. I'm hooking them a little bit higher than the rest of my wool. And let me get this other end. And I tend to just sprinkle them through my rugs. And it adds, again, that little bit of shine really adds quite the sparkle. Again, things like skies, backgrounds. It's really very nice. Now I'm going to go up here. I'll have a little bit of that sparkle through the wool part of my universal yarn. But you'll see it's much more matte in its look because of that wool fluffiness. And there it is right in there. I know it's hard for you to see because I'm up towards the top of my camera frame there. So yeah, so these are, 3 good options that are really nice for, again, diversifying your materials. You can see what shine they're adding to my rug that didn't have any of this stuff in there before. In fact, I just thought it was a little boring. I think the biggest thing for me is this here. That's really adding a lot of interest to the rug, and I can see myself working down here in a nice big patch that's going to look like flowers. But they really add a lot. When you're working sometimes with all wool, even though I have lots of different textures of wool in here, it just needs another little oomph, I feel like. So that's why I'm happy to be adding this stuff. And again, the added bonus is that it's a little more cost effective. So I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna keep working on this piece, and this will be a wall hanging at the end, so I don't have to worry about wear and tear on this. And yeah, if you have any questions, you should let me know. You can comment here. You can email me at loopbyloopstudio@gmail.com. You can also check out my website at loopbyloopstudio.com. And yeah, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you being here with me. Hoping to do more technique videos, rug hooking specific videos. I do a lot of videos out there these days, but I got to get Loop by Loop Studio back and going. So I'm gonna flip this camera around and say thank you and happy hooking, and let me know what you're working on. Bye.